Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show. Welcome, Raquel Savatti.
Thank you, Gila. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're here because you represent a very, very important organization. So, Ezer Mizion. So, let's start talking about it. Let's tell everybody what is really Ezer Mizion.
So, Ezer Mizion is, in a nutshell, somebody once said to me, "Give me the elevator pitch," and I said the elevator needs to get stuck because they do so much. Ezer Mizion is an Israeli-based organization. It's the largest not-for-profit in Israel. And essentially, in one sentence, it provides health support services to all who need in Israel.
Well, that's a big, big shift. Wow.
So, and those health support services, it's a laundry list of what they do.
Sure.
Cancer support, geriatric support, children with special needs, food distribution, ambulance services. It
Wow.
goes on and on. Summer camps for children and their families with cancer. So many services, anything you could possibly imagine, available to all of the Israeli citizens, and approximately 650,000 people annually use the services, and they're all for nothing. It's all offered.
Wow.
65% of the services are offered through the Israeli government as part of the Kupat Cholim for Israeli citizens.
I was just going to ask you that. Okay, so they're part of Kupat Cholim. Okay.
For the most part.
Okay.
So we have an annual operating budget of about $100 million a year, and so the Israeli government essentially is our biggest client in that they provide those services for Israeli citizens. The balance are provided to anybody who needs, whatever those services are, as I said, the list goes on. Part of those services is something that is very special. They're all special, but this part in particular,
Yes.
because it appeals to or concerns Jews around the world. And that service is the bone marrow registry.
So let's slow down and talk about that, because that is something special.
It really is.
We've never had that before.
No. So from never having it before, the bone marrow registry, again, born of a need through Ezer Mizion as part of the cancer support services.
Okay.
A young boy needed a bone marrow transplant, so they decided to organize a drive to try and find him a match. This was in 1998. Unfortunately, the young boy passed away. A very philanthropic family decided that they would support a bone marrow registry and started and gave money to launch this. Since 1998, it has grown. That today it is the 5th largest bone marrow registry in the world, excuse me, and the largest Jewish registry in the world.
Okay, can you explain to those of us that don't know how it exactly works, how do we get to the registry? Like, there's so many of us in Toronto, and we want to help. How do we help?
So that's a great question, Gila, because a lot of people, when I explain, the first thing they'll say to me is, okay, great, I'll get swabbed and join the registry.
Right.
So that is not what this is about.
Okay.
Every country, or many countries in the world, have a registry. In Canada, we have the Canadian Blood Services. Every country that has a registry only swabs the residents of their country.
Okay.
This is important because if you need to get to that person as the country, you need to know where they are. So Canadian Blood Services would swab Canadians. Ezer Mizion swabs Israelis.
Okay.
This is important to note because everybody that's in the Ezer Mizion registry are Israelis. Anybody who needs a bone marrow transplant is a Jew from around the world.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand. If I'm going to the registry here in Canada, I do the swap and I get. How do you get it? How do you know that? Do I have to put them in Israeli?
No. So you're getting swabbed as a Canadian.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. They're just taking your DNA. So it doesn't matter where you're from. Your DNA is now in the Canadian registry.
Okay.
The issue with Jews is that, number one, we are an ethnic minority.
Yep.
And in Canada, we're only 400,000 Jews. In Toronto, we're only 200,000 Jews. At the end of the day, this is a numbers game. And that is that any ethnic group is severely underrepresented in the Canadian Blood Services.
Okay.
So if a Jew in Canada needs a bone marrow transplant, they don't have a lot of a base to draw from. And what happens if, God forbid, somebody needs a bone marrow transplant? The first thing they do is look to the family, to the siblings.
Right.
The chance that a sibling is a match, unless it's a twin, the chance that a sibling is a match is 25%. But the likelihood that your match is going to come from another Jew, if you're a Jew, is 99%.
Wow.
So we need to have Jewish DNA in the registry. But we don't have a lot in Toronto. We don't have a lot in Canada. We don't have a lot anywhere in the world, except in Israel. So in Israel, we have a rich base to draw from. And that data is collected through drives and through a program with the IDF, which I'll explain in a moment. But all of the information that's captured is on an international registry database, the World Marrow Donor Association, which is housed in the Netherlands. So anywhere in the world, if somebody needs a bone marrow transplant, their doctor does a search. They do the first search that's close by. If they can't find a match, they do an international search.
I see.
So today, Ezer Mizion has over 750,000 samples in the registry.
I just want to ask, so it makes no difference if I was swapped here in the register or if I go to Israel and do it.
You can't because you're Canadian.
I can't.
You can't.
Oh,
a lot of people might say, you know what, that's awesome. I'm going to go to Israel.
That's what I was thinking. The next time I'm there, I'll
get swabbed. And they'll say thank you, but no thank you.
Okay.
Because you're going home. And for Ezer Mizion to start finding you, it's not so easy. So you can't do that.
Okay.
You'll support it in other ways, which I'll speak about. So the beauty of this registry, the part that sets us apart, is first of all, per capita, we really are the largest registry in the world. If we have just over 7 million people living in Israel, and we have over 750,000 samples in the registry, that's clearly more than 10% of the population. There's no other country that can actually say that they have 10% of their population represented in their registry. So that speaks volumes for us. From that, how did it grow so fast? In 2005...
And it keeps growing.
And it needs to keep growing.
Yeah.
It needs to keep growing. Just one little statistic I'll give you on that is, according to the health department in Israel, statistically, if we reach somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.2 million samples in the registry, we statistically would have a match for every Jewish patient in the world.
Wow.
So that's huge. That's huge. The part that sets us apart, that it makes us so special, is in 2005, 9 years ago, a deal was struck with the IDF. And no other country has been able to do this. That every soldier, upon their, once they're recruited.
I got to tell you, I got to stop you. I mean, we're going to show the video in a few minutes, but there's nothing like our soldiers. I mean, my heart just, I was crying watching that video. It just warms my heart. Continue.
It does. And it warms the heart of the Israelis that do this as well. And what happens is that when they get inducted, part of their induction process is they're asked if they would, it's voluntary, if they would like to get swabbed for the Ezer Mizion registry. We're the only charity that the IDF has partnered with, and for them it was a no-brainer. Of course we'll do this.
Of course.
So they, thankfully, although it's voluntary, many...
They all volunteer.
Almost all.
Almost all.
So the numbers grew exponentially when the IDF joined the ranks. For us, it's an arsenal of the best. These are young, healthy people of all different Jewish backgrounds.
Yes.
Ashkenazim, Sephardim, mixed of Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Russian,
whatever
Yemen, Moroccan, whatever. But it's not all the same.
No, I know. But they're all Israelis, they're all Jews, but they have different DNA.
Exactly,
yes.
which is so important when you're looking for a match. Yeah. So they get swabbed. So this has really grown the registry. I was very fortunate, I think you're going to show the video, to be at a ceremony in May in Israel, where to that point, 500 soldiers.
So why don't we stop, let's show the video, and then we'll continue, and then everybody can watch with us and we'll talk about it.
When it's love you give, I'll be your man of good faith. And in love you live, I'll make a stand, I won't break. I'll be the rock you can build on. there's love inside. I swear I'll always be strong. Then there's a reason why. I'll prove to you we belong. I'll be the wall that protects you from the wind and the rain, from the hurt and the pain.
גבירותיי ורבותיי, ברוכים הבאים לטקס מתגייסים לחיים.
That is all for one, all for love.
ברצוני להוקיר באופן אישי כל אחד מכם, 500 החיילים האמיצים, בזכותכם הגענו עד הלום.
כל אחד כאן מהאנשים שמסתובב והוא יודע שהוא הציל חיים, יכול לשאת פסקת אושר וסיפוק עד סוף חייו. צה"ל ימשיך למקד את עצמו במשימה הצבאית של הגנת המדינה והעם.
חייו של דודו ניצלו בזכות תרומת מי החצב שהעניק לו רב"ט איתן טוגנהפט.
נמצא לך תורם מושלם, קשה לתאר במילים את האושר, אני לא רוצה לאבד אותו.
I'm honored to invite to the stage the sponsor of personalized donor pools. It is your generous funding that financed lab testing, which has enabled IDF recruits to join Ezer Mizion's registry. לקבלת המדליות, אני גאה להזמין את חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל המתגייסים לחיים. כולנו מצדיעים לכם.
Wow. Anybody that can watches it and their eyes doesn't tear, I don't know what. It's like amazing. Just amazing. I have no words, you know.
Well, I really had no words when I was there because unfortunately my Hebrew is not so great, so I didn't speak and I didn't need to understand the words. I just saw the emotion of the soldiers meeting many of the people whose lives they saved. And it was amazing. It was amazing to be a part of it, and I was honored to be there. So that is what's so special. And the numbers just continue to grow. Today, I think well over 600 soldiers have now saved lives.
Do you want to tell us the story? And you told me you were talking and you told me a wonderful story about Eitan. I think every Israeli probably know who he is.
So that story is very emotional. I guess there's a couple of components to the story. So there's a couple who have a grandson who a number of years ago, he's a young child, developed a disease that needed a bone marrow transplant, and a match was found through Ezer Mizion. So the grandparents were so indebted and grateful that they started a fund to help cover the costs of getting DNA testing. And fast forward a few years later, leading to this past summer, the mother of Lieutenant Eitan, everybody knows who Lieutenant Eitan.
In the tunnels in Gaza.
Who went into the tunnels in the hopes of trying to see if he could find his friend and colleague, Lieutenant Goldin, and went in and unfortunately, only found proof that he had died. Yeah. But it was so important for Israel to understand that. And he was actually declared a hero. At the moment that he was in the tunnel, his mother had no idea. This is the mother whose grandson had had a bone marrow transplant.
Yeah. Who was saved. She just felt that she needed a bit of a break because she was, she knew her son was in Gaza. And so she was in the car and all of a sudden got a phone call from Ezer Mizion to let them know that their fund that they had established that day
they got notice that their fund helped to save a life. There was a match that was found from their fund, so they saved a life.
Ugh.
And the person who contacted from Ezer Mizion asked her, said, I hope that you get blessings from the fact that you've saved a life and that your son is safe. What she didn't know during all this time was her son was in the tunnels.
And was saved.
Shortly after, within an hour, her son called and said, Mom, I'm okay, and then told her where he had spent the last few hours. And
I get goosebumps.
they really believe that because they saved a life through Ezer Mizion, their son's life was
Only
saved
God
as well.
was watching. Who knows? But just doing good things. It's
Only doing
amazing.
good things. So,
Tell me, let's talk about, because our time are running, going
Right.
fast. How can the community, because a lot of us in the community, we're not aware of Ezer Mizion.
Right.
You're here and we want to help. How can we help? Tell us about, you have a big event.
We have a huge event coming up. It's our first big event. Ezer Mizion has been in Canada for about 12 years, but everything has been very low profile up until now. And now the time has come to make some noise. So we decided what better way. So we are excited to be bringing in Ehud Barak as our keynote speaker. The event, first of all, is March 22nd. It's at the Carlew at Young and College. He is going to be our keynote speaker. I want to point out that March 22nd is 5 days after the Israeli elections. Don't know what's going to be, right? So I'm sure he'll have what to share.
Big event.
Absolutely. He's also going to share his thoughts on security and the safety of Jews in Israel and around the world and the threats of terrorism. An absolute expert on all of this. He's a decorated, the most decorated soldier in Israel. So we're excited to have him. And we are going to hear some very emotional stories from people whose lives have been affected by Ezer Mizion. And we encourage people to come out.
And it's for support. It's to support the Kehillah, and I think everybody should join.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we welcome everybody. You can contact, I think we're going to have our information on who to call or to go on our website. We're still taking some reservations. We would love to have the Israeli community represented.
Yes, absolutely.
Through
we need to be there.
We all need to be there.
You never know when each one of us, God forbid, will need the help from Ezer Mizion.
I just want to add that 30 lives in Canada have been saved because of Ezer Mizion. That's one life is important. That's 30 lives. So more than half of the lives that are saved are outside of Israel. It's so important. So I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity.
No problem, but tell us how we can help. Yes, come to the event on March 22nd. How else can we help?
So, at the end of the day, you can't get swabbed, but you can help. We
want to help.
Right, okay, so we have an arsenal of people in Israel that are waiting to get swabbed, that can get swabbed. Where the cost comes into this is the actual cost of processing the data from that swab. In Canada, I understand it costs about $100 to get a test processed, so we can have that DNA and put it in the system. Ezer Mizion worked out a fabulous deal with one of the largest labs in Israel, and they're doing it for $65 a test. So really, we need to raise that money. If we're processing somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 people a year, we need about $3 million a year just to process that DNA. The more that we get into the registry, the more lives we can save. So really, that's how people can help here. It's $65 a test, donate to Ezer Mizion, and we will get that registry just, exploding at the seams, which helps everybody. That's the best way. Be a part, help to get the word out. People don't know about the organization. So help to talk about it, spread the word.
We won't mention names, but you just got a call today from somebody that I just happened to tell because I've known her and she introduced me to Ezer Mizion and I introduced them to this organization and she got a call that he might need help.
Yeah, that's actually not the first. This gentleman who's from Toronto who has a young son who needs who may need help. There's another gentleman another person who contacted our offices in Israel to see if we could help. His son needs a bone marrow transplant. He's a 21-year-old boy. I was contacted by a woman from Hamilton, also a 21-year-old boy, God forbid.
But it's there.
The needs are here, and they are contacting us saying, "Can you help us?" And we are trying. One of the things we've done, even for people from a particularly specific ethnic community, will contact us, and we'll organize a drive to that community in Israel. If it's a Moroccan community, Iraqi community, we'll say, we're coming out to a mall, urging all Iraqis or Turkish or whatever, just so we can get more and more representation in the registry. So all of this is happening in Israel, but we can support that here.
So really here, we should, each one of us, get a swab even to the Canadian?
Canadian Blood Services, absolutely.
We need to do that.
We're an ethnic minority. We need as many people to get swabbed as possible. Again, it's a numbers game, though. We're not that many Jews in Canada. We'll never have that many Jews in the Canadian Blood Services. So do it, get swabbed for here, and help support Ezer Mizion so we can really enrich the registry there.
I mean, the numbers here are growing. I mean, I know the Israeli community, the numbers are growing.
They are growing.
So I wonder if they're already there or here. I'm not sure.
It depends. It depends when they came, right? Because
Yeah.
this has been part of the IDF since 2005, and the registry started in 1998. So they could very well be on the registry, but if they're here, it's another
But
story.
it's important to do it so everybody is listed. So we got
Definitely,
everybody.
definitely.
Okay, you've got a few minutes. What would you like to tell the community?
I just want to say, first of all, know that we're here. Ezer Mizion has been around since 1978. It's the largest not-for-profit in Israel. This is not some small little organization. It is a wonderful organization in Israel. They have 4,000 employees and 14,000 volunteers. These volunteers provide so many of the services we spoke about at the beginning. It is absolutely an organization of chesed, of doing good. It comes from a good place. The Bone Marrow Registry is a part of that. I'm proud to be associated with the organization. I'm excited about things that we're going to do together, hopefully, and within the community.
Spread the word because, like I said, I hate to say it, but you never know when we will need it.
Right. And I'm going to just add one last thing. Aside from the Bone Marrow Registry, even other services in Israel, so many Israelis are here and they have their family in Israel. You just never know. You don't know any of the other services. A friend of mine was visiting, they made Aliyah, and they were visiting here last week, and my girlfriend ended up having an Ezer Mizion volunteer help her because she was hospitalized for a week. They just help.
Oh.
They just help.
Oh.
So it's an amazing organization. Call me, I will tell you about it. I can talk about it forever. They just do wonderful things.
She's so passionate about it.
But it comes from my heart because everything they do comes from their heart. So whatever you can do to support, I thank you all, and thank you, Gila.
So let's talk about it. Let's just tell them again. It's March 22nd.
March 22nd at the Carlu. It's going to be a presentation. We're going to hear from Ehud Barak. We're going to hear some wonderful, heartwarming stories from Ezer Mizion. They'll be followed by an amazing dessert reception. It'll be exciting. And we look forward to having...
And if you can come, March 22nd, send, you can see the website, contact, Raquel. And, if you get a group of 10, I'm sure she'll do something great for you. Just get the numbers out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's important that we're well represented.
Yes, and it's important for you to look in the website, learn about Ezer Mizion, and just support it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gila. I really appreciate it.
No, listen, it's for all of us.
It really
Ezer
is.
Mizion is for all of us.
It really is.
And, I'm here to support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I say thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next week.